Hello, everyone, and welcome to Literary Tales. I'm your host, Paul Krause, and in this episode, we start a short series examining some of the stories in Ovid's great work, the Metamorphoses, so that we may get a better understanding of what that epic poem is actually about. In the annals of Roman poets, Ovid occupies a unique place. He is generally regarded as inferior to Virgil, Rome's grandest and grandiose poet, whose Aeneid still stands as Rome's mythopoetic masterpiece, and whose eclogues set the stage for the development of the pastoral ideal in Western literature. Yet Ovid's language and picturesque scenes strike one as occasionally more remarkable and indeed energetic than Virgil. Edward Gibbon, for instance, said he derived more pleasure reading Ovid than the other Latin poets. Ovid, however, strikes moderns as dangerous and out of date. His poems, especially the ones on sexual violence, often tinging with what we might now call toxic masculinity, don't necessarily fit the sensibilities of our post-Me Too age and hypersensitivity. In fact, various classicists and writers of literature have suggested we abandon and dump Ovid from the great book's curriculum, for he is not an appropriate read in our 21st century age. However, such attempts to dethrone Ovid fail to see the grander and indeed even dark wisdom found in the Metamorphoses, where love is surrounded in a sea of darkness and violence, and the cascading desires of the human heart often go unfulfilled. In another word, Ovid paints a portrait of a cosmos not all that dissimilar from our own. The Metamorphoses is an epic of transformation, of change. Like Pseudo-Apollodorus' Bibliotheca, Ovid's Metamorphoses is a collection of the grandstanding myths of antique culture, especially as inherited and refined in the Latin-Roman tradition. It opens with the birth of the cosmos, its wrestling into order from chaos, which provided the basis for life, and all the subsequent stories that the poem sings of. It concludes with a summary of the great stories that moved pagan consciousness, finishing with the apotheosis of Julius Caesar, the expansion of the walls of Rome and Roman civilization with it, a deliberate echoing of Virgil's opening lines in the Aeneid, and Ovid's own declaration that his fame will live on for all eternity because of the truth that he established by poetic prophecy, and that he himself was the instantiated avatar of. We'll return to that point later in another episode. Yet Ovid doesn't celebrate, upon closer inspection, the mighty walls of Rome, as do his contemporaries. Ovid pays his due respect to Rome, but Rome must submit to the winds and cosmos of change. Time changes all things. Rome is no exception. This is why Ovid leads up to his conclusion by including the speeches of Pythagoras, the great Greek philosopher, who argued that in the cosmos of time that changes all things, only one thing remains the same in the midst of this torrential sea of change, the soul. Ovid's Metamorphoses, then, is an inspection into the soul that never changes, that never dies. And in that inspection, Ovid finds the tension between love and lust, beauty and ugliness, death and redemption, sorrow and happiness. The soul may experience changes wrought by its burdening enslavement to the oceans of time, but what the soul seeks is the same: constancy through love, the eternity which never changes, because love itself never changes. As we go forward, we shall examine various stories contained in the Metamorphoses that deal with this exact tension that Ovid sings about in his poem, that tension between love and lust, beauty and ugliness, death and redemption, sorrow and happiness. And in doing so, we will realize that Ovid's Metamorphoses is indeed a grand masterpiece that has stood the test of time, and that Ovid really is an avatar of truth established by that prophetic, poetic prophecy.